First of all, I'd like to thank 1947 Partition Archive and Indiaspora for the opportunity to participate in this program and for the great effort to highlight the important work being done by the archive. Now, time is a great healer, as they say, but the old wounds leave their scars. I was attending a TICON conference in Santa Clara in May 2014 when I saw 1947 Partition Archive showcased in the conference exhibitions. My curiosity immediately grew, and I talked to the people there. They hurriedly arranged my interview with Ms. Dina Kapoor from the archive the next day, and I was asked to narrate the story of my migration. I was born in December 1940 in Sialkot, now in Pakistan, and walked to India along with the parents and two other siblings. It took us 6 terrible long days without much of food and water because there were dead bodies in wells and ponds. And we crossed River Ravi and made it to Dera Baba Nanak on the Indian side of the river. It seemed a very daunting task to recollect my experience as a child, then 67 years later. But I surprised myself when the memory of the whole journey unfolded, and I spoke almost for 1.5 hours. We left our home in a rush in the middle of the night because a mob attack on the village was imminent. So the family lost all assets. We came with just the clothes on our back. The same night, our home was looted and set on fire. There was no going back as our family had hoped. It was a hard life growing up in India. Because our family had felt, no, we will go away from the village for the night and we'll come back in the morning. There was no such thing. That morning never came. I was impressed by the work of the archive and realized the importance of it. So with the humble contribution, I became the founder donor and then also a citizen historian to collect more stories. You know, it's heartbreaking to record the painful stories of the survivors who suffered in many ways during the massive exodus from one homeland to a new one. 10 to 15 million people were uprooted and over 1 million people died for whom freedom never came. Looking back at my own experiences and that of others, I now see it like a case studies of human behavior in different circumstances. In my case, we were to cross a town called Narowal, and the street we walked through had for me knee-deep water, knee-deep mud, apparently purposely created by the mobsters to slow us down. Halfway through, I saw someone slowly pouring drinking water from a brass utensil over a courtyard boundary wall. For safety of the person, for safety the person could not be seen, but only his fingers holding the utensils. A few people drank the water, others did not because they thought the water might be poisoned. And as we moved on, at the end of the street, there was a huge mob standing there with all kind of, primitive weapons, axes and kirpans, and swords and spears and anything, whatever they had, to basically attack on us and kill people. Fortunately, we had a small contingent of soldiers under a British officer, and they were located strategically, and they were holding the crowd back. I remember I tried to wash my legs because I was wearing shorts. In the water, there was a pond there, and they said, no, you have to get fast, go away, don't stop here. They would not even let us clean our legs. There was so much mud, and there were rocks and whatever underneath. So this told me the two faces of the human character. One was a noble Muslim, and other side, a stark evil group of people. the same community, same people, same families. And that scene has been imprinted on my mind ever since. And it was the most remarkable thing which I ever seen in my life. There are many other cases, since I have collected many stories. Similar cases happen with other people. In one other case, a friend of mine, Mr. Indra, they had to walk from Lahore to India on foot. They had a family, they had a grandfather, his mother and his uncles. On the way, he recalls that there was this bullock cart on which the dead bodies of the parents were lying there. And his child, maybe a year and a half, approximately, to his imagination, he was sitting looking at his parents. And also he was looking at the people walking by. And he recalls, nobody ever bothered to pick up that child. The child was so tired, maybe he lost the energy even to cry. Going further, the grandfather needed a stick to walk. And the stick, in India, they have stick with the handle was a little bit of silver on it, golden, silver coated. And there was a Baluch army. Even that they snatched away from him because there was some silver on it. That was the cruelty those people suffered. And it was the military who was trying to rob people. So ultimately, the grandfather could not walk as fast as the other could. And one point he recalls that I was very thirsty and I told my mom, I am very thirsty. So she could not find water, and yet she saw some small pond. And she went there, she folded her dupatta, her coverage, her shawl, in 7 layers and tried to filter some water. And she saw a dead body in the pond. So that's what the water he could drink. And she was beckoning to her family and brothers, please hold on, please wait for me, I'm coming. But nobody bothered, they just kept on. The same family who would be just carrying each other so much, but in those adverse circumstances, everybody was for oneself. And now when they reached India, they reached Batala, and their grandfather did not show up. They searched for him 2 days. He did not show up. And they even hired people to try to find him, but no. Ultimately, the grandfather slowly trekked along. And after 2 days, he showed up and came back with the family. Some people had to fight back. One story of Mr. Dillon, they were held up in Sagoda for 2 months. And they said every night there was firing from each side. We had guns. We would fire on the other side because they were supposed to get army from India and they did not come. And when they will go to the town to buy some food, people will keep the money and not give them any food. And those are the kind of stories which we had to hear and reflect upon them. What is the human nature? But there are some people who just survived just by luck. The case of Dr. Rahmani, they were from northwest Punjab, and they wanted to come to India. They wanted to board a train. They came to the railway station, and the train had just left. So they were left behind. So what happened is the train came back because the train had some soldiers on them, and some soldier was possibly left behind. So the train had gone ahead, and they came back. And they were able to board that train. And they told us that in the subsequent train, everybody was killed in it. So it was just a sheer luck, certain divine power behind it, or whatever we can call it. That's how they made to India. So these are some of the stories so difficult to really assimilate, really internalize. But there's endless stories, and it's very difficult even to record these stories. Some stories, most often people break down, emotionally break down, they start crying. Even me, I start crying, because when you hear somebody's story, when you relate yourself with your own story, the whole scene comes back. So this is some of the experiences I have, and I could go on a long time if the time permits. Um, but this is what the gist of experience is. And naturally, we had a very hard life growing in India. My father had virtually left everything, but since he was educated, he was able to get a job and work his way up. But it has been a very painful experience going through. We left our homes, which were our homes for ancestors for centuries, and suddenly it was no more ours. I hope that this archive serves as a lesson for the future generations who will read these stories and realize that making such reckless political decisions has consequences, and perhaps those who will grow up with these stories, they'll be better informed if they become politicians someday. This helps them to make better decisions how to deal with mankind and not make decisions for their own political benefits. Thank you very much.